All right, this is Ryan. We're finally here. It's time for No Surrender 2022 in Impact, TEW 2020. Just gonna get right into it because considering it's only been 2 days since our last episode of Impact, it's not really a whole lot of news, so I'll just get to it after No Surrender. Um, as far as I remember, TV ratings and attendance were relatively the same, and uh, something kind of important did happen on SmackDown, but that's nothing that can't wait till later. One thing before I do get into it, something I just learned about the game um, is that um, I hope it's not going to be important, but something that might be. I learned that pre-show and post-show events don't factor into like the final score of the overall show, which kind of sucks because I kind of wanted the pre-show to be somewhat important, and I imagine like the pre-show is going to air live on YouTube to get people to go watch the pay-per-view. Anyone that's either, waiting on the last minute or not going to watch a show but still want to watch something cool nonetheless. So I kind of wanted something important to go down the pre-show, which you'll see later. But it kind of sucks that it won't factor into the overall score. We'll find out if that really affects anything. But yeah, other than that, let's just get into it. All right, we start off the No Surrender pre show with the Learning Tree exhibition match where Brian Myers and Avery Good, professional wrestler, face off against VSK and Nick Stapp CPA. Um, Basically, the story of this match is Myers treating this as a training exercise. He basically makes Avery take the lead in as far as his team goes, and then every once in a while he'll tag in. It'll be like, no, like if Avery is applying a hole, he's like, that's pretty good, kid, but you can do it like this, and he'll cinch it in tighter on VSK or CPA. Um, which kind of pisses them off, and especially the way they've been treated the last couple weeks. Um, so Myers kind of allegedly this is for training, but this is for him to placate his ego and show off. But eventually VSK and CPA kind of get sick of it and start fighting for themselves. Um, Eventually, and the end of the match comes when Myers actually cheats to pin CPA using the ropes for leverage. So the most professional wrestler and a very good professional wrestler win the match. After the match, Myers wants everyone to be one big happy family. VSK and CPA are, begrudgingly do it while Myers celebrates with his golden boy Avery Good, segment rating of 29. And also, this means that due to their win, Brian Myers and Avery Good get a match on the main card of Sacrifice in a few weeks. Next segment, Steve Maclin comes out and takes the mic, and he's like, "All right, come on, let's get this over with. I know I have a mystery opponent. I know it's supposed to be some big name, blah 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 blah." And reiterating that if he gets his win back, he gets the next title shot. But claiming this is a conspiracy, he can't. He's got a mystery opponent. He can't prepare. Blah blah blah. All the things he's been saying the last couple weeks. Um, Mic cuts, lights go out, lights come back on, and we get Shane Swerve Strickland as the newest member to the Impact roster and Steve Maclin's opponent for tonight. Um, Shane Strickland has debuted a Swerve gimmick, which I'm still not quite sure what exactly that is. That was the gimmick he was given, but I think you can just name gimmicks whatever you want in this game. And it's got an initial rating of very good. Segment rating of 32. The match itself, segment rating of 33. Strickland defeats Steve Maclin. Um, even though with all of his complaining, Steve Maclin, is correct. He could not prepare for someone like Shane Swerve Strickland, especially going in blind. So he was, literally blindsided by Shane's speed and momentum and all the hype that's been around him. And he falls victim to a 450 full splash. Segment rating of 33. So, like I said, this is the pre show. Like, Shane Strickland is, a fairly big name right now on the rise, and I was kind of hoping he would bump the numbers up a bit more. But since this is the pre show, technically it doesn't count, and didn't really bump the numbers up that much, so, whatever. Um, Maclin in-ring performance of 19 is rather low, though, kind of concerning. I don't really know why that is. Um, so yeah, that is it for the pre-show. We get our, YouTube tells you to go to Impact Plus or wherever this is being aired. So we go to the beginning of the show after the, show intro or whatever. We cut back to the ring and Steve Maclin is actually still in the ring. He has taken a chair and a microphone from ringside, sat down in the middle of the ring and starts ranting and raving again and said, I've had it with this. There's no way I could have prepared for Shane Strickland. You know, there's just a conspiracy keeping me away from the X Division title, blah, blah, blah. Again, what he's been saying the last couple weeks. Gail Kim comes out and she has a microphone of her own. She says, I know what you said a few weeks, and you're absolutely right. I'm not totally familiar with all this X Division stuff, and Scott D'Amore is busy with, his, he has a match tonight that he has to referee, so he can't, we can't exactly cater to Macklin's every whim, and like she said, she's not familiar with this X Division stuff, but she did go out and find someone who is. And maybe if Maclin won't listen to reason, he'll listen to this man. And out comes Homicide, who is we're kind of making like the X Division enforcer, I guess. Which we gave him the enforcer gimmick. It's unfortunately got an initial rating of poor. Basically, Homicide runs out, starts attacking Maclin. Maclin takes the chair, swing and a miss. Homicide kicks him. Maclin drops the chair. Homicide gets him. Gringo Killa on top of the chair. Shit cans him out, and Homicide gets to celebrate. And, we have, we can start No Surrender off properly. So, yeah, the Homicide is kind of like the X Division or X Division enforcer for like the authority figures here. So I thought it was kind of funny to have him in like some sort of position of authority too. So, but segment rating of 33, Homicide is back in Impact, and now properly we can start the show with Trey Miguel versus Chris Sabin for the X Division title. Um, Trey Miguel and Chris Sabin have great chemistry, which is good, but they called it a terrible match. Whatever. But yeah, Trey Miguel eventually defeats Chris Sabin, making defense number 2 of his X Division title. I don't know how accurate that is, considering, you know, um, the data and all that. Segment rating of 29, which is unfortunate. Um, but yeah, Respect the X storyline, which is the storyline that's kind of been involving them and Steve Maclin lost heat with this. But I think I don't know, but it looked like it's kind of gaining heat with Maclin. I don't know, but yeah. So Trey Miguel retains against Chris Sabin, and afterwards, Miguel extends his hand as a sign of respect. Sabin accepts it. The kind of the words in the pull apart brawl that they had on Impact last week or a couple days ago, actually. Cooler heads have prevailed since then. Sabin, sorry, and Sabin showing this respect to Miguel, and showing that the X Division is in good hands. Segment rating of 27. Meanwhile, backstage, we go to uh, Quinn McKay standing by with Father James Mitchell. McKay has been kind of like our backstage correspondent, kind of relegated to before the Impact lately, but wanted to give her a spot on the big show. And she's interviewing James Mitchell, and she brings up the point that people have been saying, and even Johnny Swinger, has probably been saying that uh, Mitchell has stacked the deck against him in their battle royal tonight, making it like essentially a 6-on-4 match. Um, Mitchell just laughs it off and says he made a deal. Well, Swinger made a deal with the devil. What do you expect? Um, Either way, Mitchell wins this. That's a win-win situation for him. If Swinger wins, he gets a casino essentially, or kind of reiterates the steps. Gets the majority shareholder in a casino, and Decay gets to break up or has to break up, and if not, then they become his eternal slaves apparently. So, either way, he wins. So why not stack the deck? So, segment rating of 28 for that. And in the battle royal, um, ignore Caleb with a K, pretend that's Johnny Bravo, because Johnny Bravo is not a wrestler. So I could not, you know, I had to put somebody in a spot, but basically for the battle royal, ignore most of this because this is how the match is going to be. Madman Fulton eliminates Johnny Bravo right off the bat, eliminates Hernandez soon after, but then, true to his name, goes mad and eliminates Crazy Steve. Austin has to step in and remind him, hey, you know, this is we're supposed to be focusing on Swingers Crew right here. Don't mess with Decay or whatever. Um, that doesn't go too far. Eventually, Black Taurus gets in Madman Fulton's face. They brawl. They eventually eliminate each other. Um, and then Austin is kind of, angry at Fulton, or I guess kind of regretful that he couldn't save him. Is distracted, is eliminated by Swinger, but then soon after, Swinger is eliminated by Havok, which leaves Havok, Rosemary, and Zicky as the final three. Eventually, Zicky eliminates Havok. Kind of she charges you, and he pulls down the ropes, uses her momentum against her, knocks her out. So it's Rosemary and Zicky Dice as the final two. Um, Rosemary, Zicky Dice dumps Rosemary over the top, but she lands on the apron. Uh, she kind of teeters. Zicky hits her with a super kick, and she stumbles back, but someone runs out of the ring, or out from the back, out to the ring, and catches her, and that ends up being Taiya Valkyrie. Um, Taiya Valkyrie has debuted her troublemaker gimmick, has gotten an initial rating of poor. And then there's kind of a moment where Taiya Valkyrie is holding Rosemary in her arms. Everyone pops for the return of Taiya Valkyrie, and they kind of look at each other and kind of decide what's gonna happen. But while this is happening, Johnny Bravo comes back, gets the attention of Zicky, and points to them. And Johnny gets down on all fours, kneels behind Taiya, so that Zicky bounces off, hits the two of them with a missile or a baseball sliding drop kick. forcing Taiya to drop Rosemary, and her feet hit the floor. Zicky Dice wins. Swingers Palace is saved. Decay must break up. And, segment rating of 30 for the whole match. Afterwards, we get a segment where basically the rest of Swingers Palace comes out. They lift Zicky Dice up on their shoulders. They celebrate, and they carry him to the back. We get a moment with Rosemary and Taiya Valkyrie standing in the middle of the ring, and the rest of Decay are kind of heading to the back as well. Havok is looking and seeing what's going to happen with Rosemary and Taiya. Rosemary looks back at looks back at Decay, looks at Taiya, looks at Decay, looks at Taiya, and eventually the two of them hug. So Rosemary and Taiya Valkyrie, bitter, good friends, bitter enemies, as they have been, um, are on the same page. Havok looks disappointed, and as the rest of Decay does, as they're no longer a unit and they all go to the back, but everyone cheers the return of Taiya Valkyrie to Impact, and their friendship with Rosemary rekindled. Segment rating of 35. Then a pick your poison match. Moose defeated JONAH. Um, we kind of, even though on commentary we kind of build this as a champion versus champion match because Moose is the TNA. Keep saying that. Back when Moose actually had the TNA champion, Impact World Champion. They bring up JONAH's New Japan Strong. I think it's the open weight championship that he won recently. So even though neither belt is on the line, and the New Japan title isn't there, they kind of say it's a championship caliber match, champion versus champion. But that kind of comes into play with eventually Moose clocks JONAH with his Impact title, knocks him out, taking the coward's way out. Moose gets the win. Unfortunately, uh, Josh Alexander's opponent for Moose did not stand much of a fight. Segment rating of 36. All right. So after the match, Chelsea Green comes out for her return, I guess, to Impact, and she has a big statement considering her future and the future of Matt Cardona. She takes the mic and she opens. She's like, as most of you have probably already heard, Matt Cardona, my husband, won't be returning to Impact. He has decided not to renew his contract. He had specific goals in mind regarding Impact, and in his views, he did not reach those goals and has decided to not renew his contract. Plus, with his responsibilities as podcast host and blah blah blah, all this, all of his outside business ventures, he's just simply, stepped away from Impact. So as far as Matt Cardona goes, he will not be coming back. But as for me, even though Matt is my husband, I am my own woman. I see no reason for me to leave Impact, so um, I'm staying. And as far as the foreseeable future, Impact is my home. Um, Eventually, Jordan Grace and Jonathan Gresham come out, dressed in street clothes, not dressed to wrestle. They both have microphones. Jordan basically says, I know we've had a lot of, animosity between us, and I know you've been eyeing the digital media championship, and I know there's tension between us, but I just want to let you know, I know it's just strictly business. I have no ill will towards you, and I support your decision, and I just want to let you know that if she says, like, if you need someone to talk to, I'll be around, blah blah blah. Gresham takes the mic and he's like, you know, it was an honor for me, no pun intended, to, face Cardona. And it's honestly, I know my talent, but it was still kind of a shock for me to defeat someone, as world traveled as he is. So, again, like she said, just business. I did not know he was going to react the way he did, by leaving. I wish he was still here. I wish I could wrestle him whenever I wanted. But yeah, we just wanted to let you know that we just hope there's no hard feelings between all of us. And Chelsea Green is, understanding. She accepts, handshakes and hugs from them. Suddenly, Maria Kanellis and Michael Bennett come out to the stage, and Maria has the mic. She's like, "Oh, isn't this all sweet? Blah 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 blah." And she's like, you know, it's just like Chelsea to pair herself with a bunch of losers. And that kind of sets off Jordan and Jonathan. They have their titles with them, and they're like, losers, look at us, we have titles. And Maria's like, yeah, pointing to Jonathan, it's like, you're the champion of a dead company, and your belt, Jordan, you hardly ever defend. So, but this doesn't involve you. This involves me and Chelsea, and this involves our history. And she talks about years ago when Chelsea first broke into Impact, and Maria saw, her potential and took her under her wing, and showed her the path to success. And they had one of the greatest segments in Impact history, bringing up the wedding segment from a few years ago. And even though that went haywire, I still wanted success for you. But what did Chelsea want? She wanted to go live her dream, and she wanted to go to WWE. And I told her no. I told her they're just gonna chew you up and spit you out. But what did they do? Or what did they do? You get injured and they shit canned you, in so many words. So you come back to Impact, which is fine. But, just like I said, you hang out with losers and you marry the biggest loser of them all, Matt Cardone. That finally sets Chelsea Green off. And she has to be held back by Jordan and Jonathan. And basically, Maria and Michael laugh at all of them and just basically say, oh, we'll see you soon, and walk off. So, Maria Kanellis and Michael Bennett are also back in Impact. Segment rating of 31. Maria's debuted. Her inspirational leader has gotten a rating of great. Michael Bennett's arrogant gimmick has gotten a rating of adequate. So we will see, what lies in store for them in the future. Impact Tag Team titles: The Wolves versus the Good Brothers. Um, kind of. I think I booked this for like 20 plus minutes. I kind of hope it went longer. But yeah, we kind of wanted this to be like a big epic match, like, not so much like a hardcore brawl, but a tough, like strong style sort of brawl to show that, the Wolves are back. Eddie brought back Davey for a reason, and they're working better than ever before, but unfortunately it's not enough. Good Brothers lay out Davey Richards with the Magic Killer after almost 20 minutes. Segment rating of 50. Everyone did pretty good, and the reason why this is kind of like our hottest storyline. Davey Richards seemed off of his game, but still brought a rating of 49. The match was a little too long given our audience. Point taken. But yeah, two teams with great chemistry. Not much can go wrong. Segment rating of 50, probably like our best match I've had so far booking with, this data. But yeah, unfortunately the Wolves could not break the record. Again, I mentioned that uh, before, but commentary mentioned that the Wolves and Beer Money are tied, I think, at like 5 reigns apiece for most Impact reigns. If the Wolves had won tonight, they would have broken that record and been the sole team to hold that record, but tonight was not their night. Then after the match, kind of brawl some more, Eddie Edwards get into the ring. They Good Brothers lay him out to. They attempt to lay him out with a magic killer, but Willie Mack and Rich Swann run out. Um, the Good Brothers, they could fight them off, but they just wrestled like 20 minutes, a kind of grueling match. They bail out. Uh, Willie Mack and Rich Swann are prepared to fight, but not tonight. Good Brothers have already had their match. They've taken their bumps. They're out. So, segment rating of 41. Hope maybe setting up a future match. We will find out later. And then in the other Pick Your Poison match, Josh Alexander versus Speedball Mike Bailey. Friends facing off. Josh Alexander, got Mike Bailey into Impact after, a bunch of visa issues. And also being guest refed by Scott D'Amore, who is friends with both men. Eventually during the match, they show respect or they're friends. They shake their hands before the match. But of course, to stir the shit, Moose eventually comes back out, Impact World Title in hand. The one he used to clock JONAH with and essentially steal a match with. Um, Tries to poke his nose in it again. He tries to, you know, let's see how I want to do this. Um, Basically, he uses the Impact World Title as a weapon again. As Okay, let's see. Josh Alexander dumps Mike Bailey out of the ring. Uh, Scott D'Amore goes the count. Josh Alexander breaks the count. They kind of argue a bit. Uh, Moose clocks Mike Bailey with the world title, rolls him in the ring, and commands that Josh Alexander pins him. Josh Alexander refuses, sees through Moose's bullshit. Scott D'Amore also does and ejects Moose from the ring. Um, this goes on for a few minutes. Eventually, Mike Bailey comes to, tries to roll up Josh Alexander from behind, does not get to do it, but eventually, um, Josh Alexander puts Speedball Mike Bailey away with a tombstone to finish the match. Um, Segment rating of 33. This is Mike Bailey's first loss in Impact and at the hands of one of his friends, Josh Alexander. And Mike Bailey, somewhat on par in ring performance, which is good news for Mike Bailey, showing that he can kind of hang in the upper level. Josh Alexander's getting better at his gimmick, which I don't remember what it is, but yeah, the storyline continues, and reminder that we will get Moose versus Josh Alexander. Loser leaves Impact next month at Sacrifice. As we're getting ready for our main event, um, they start building the cage, and we see Nick Aldis, the husband of Mickie James, sitting at ringside behind the guardrail as a fan. Segment rating of 26. Nick Aldis has debuted a cocky gimmick, gotten an initial rating of adequate. I don't know if I'm going to use Nick Aldis at all. I just thought I'd kind of throw him a bone after the kind of mass exodus that NWA had recently, which is where Homicide came from, and I think Michael Bennett also came from. Um, but yeah, we show him at ringside, and then also Mickie James makes her entrance. She gets an elaborate entrance, which unfortunately gets a 15. I don't know why. Lack of anything interesting happening in the segment was a problem. But yeah, she gets a big entrance. She kisses her husband at ringside, and she throws in a few um weapons into the cage for good measure. And like we've said, this is a cage match, winner takes all for Knockouts title. AAA Reina de Reinas title and the ROH Women's title. And it's kind of implied that if Mickie James cannot win this match, then she, cannot really challenge for the title as long as Deonna Purrazzo is champ. It's kind of implied that after tonight, everything is done between them. And then with a segment rating of 31, Deonna Purrazzo ends up defeating Mickie James. We had an attempted. So during the match, we also had Matthew Raywalt. I wouldn't say accidentally hit Purrazzo, but basically, um, at one point in the match, Mickie James has Deonna Purrazzo in her armbar. Matthew Raywalt, even though the cage was designed to keep him out, he runs out, attempts to scale the cage, and then Nick Aldis hops the rail and attacks him and sends him to the back so that the match can be one-on-one as it was meant to be. But eventually, Deonna Purrazzo is able to get out. Purrazzo locks in the armbar, kind of uses the cage wall as leverage, but Mickie James is able to run that or uh, kind of transfer that into a pin. Deonna Purrazzo is able to kick out, goes back into Fujiwara armbar. This time she uses the cage for leverage, but also kind of like ties her legs in the rope so that Mickie James can't, move it into a pin. There's pretty much no way she can get out of this hold. There's no DQ. She, you know, can't escape. She's locked in this cage, locked into an armbar, and unfortunately she has to tap. Um, Wanted this to be also another long match. We wanted to give these ladies the main event spot that they had originally, like in real life, but stakes much higher. Um, Segment rating of 31 was the match was a little too long. I wanted the tag title match to go longer than this, which it did, but only by like a minute or so. But I wanted to show that these ladies could main event a show. Mickie James surprisingly had a lower performance than Deonna Purrazzo, but basically this ends the feud between them. Deonna Purrazzo has solidified herself over the veteran Mickie James, and to end the show, we get you know Deonna Purrazzo celebrating um her way to the back, all three titles. I kind of wanted this to focus more on Mickie James. Like we basically end the show with Mickie James defeated, ultimately defeated, just sitting in the middle of the cage, just distraught that she could not back up what, she had set out to do, and the younger virtuosa was able to get one over and, ultimately win the war. So segment rating of 36 is how No Surrender ends. Overall rating of 32. So I don't know how much that matters as far as big events. I know our networks prefer over 30. Um, our only real low point was Mickie James's elaborate entrance for some reason. But overall, we high 20s, low 30s. And then, regarding the tag title, that really bumped us up a lot. Um, so yeah, No Surrender is in the books. Deonna Purrazzo remains triple champion. We have Josh Alexander versus Moose for the Impact title next month, and the loser leaves Impact. But also, we have a lot of new names. We have Homicide as the basically the enforcer to, the X Division and the TNA board of directors, if you will. Steve Maclin has been locked out of yet another shot at the X title. Swingers Palace has, locked down their casino. DK must break up. We have Maria Kanellis and Michael Bennett here. We have, well, Nick Aldis is here, but he's was kind of here for more support more than anything. But will he, remain an Impact? Will he show his face again? You know, it sounds like Mickie James is kind of done, I guess, not really retired or anything, but she had her shot and she lost it. And, you know, so do they just go home and lick their wounds or whatever? But yeah, a lot of things happened tonight. A lot of things yet to happen come Sacrifice in a couple weeks. I think we only have 2 episodes of Impact and then Sacrifice. So, yeah, next show will be Fallout from No Surrender and probably a big news week. Let's make a speech. Let's say Deonna Purrazzo and Mickie James. Brr, 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 brr. Josh Alexander, Rosemary, and Deonna Purrazzo were given encouragement. Let's give Mickie James a hug. Deonna Purrazzo complimented on good performance, and for the hell of it, I don't want to possibly spoil any possible names. We gave Josh Alexander props last month. Um, let's say Davey Richards. He's coming back. He's off his game. Let's get him on his game. And we'll tell. Where'd he go? We'll tell him he's awesome. Davey Richards is awesome. Deonna Purrazzo is pleased. Mickie James is pleased. Davey Richards is pleased. So yeah, that's it. Um, and while this loads, I will sign out.